Farm cats. The life of cats about a farm is in itself worthy of a whole study. They come and go from one set of farm buildings to another, according, so far as I am able to make out, to the rise and fall of food supplies. No animal but a hog knows better how to take care of himself. We have a score of farm cats, fat and sleek and well fed, on mice, rats, and unwary sparrows, as well as on the milk from the dairy barn and the table scraps from the houses. In summer, some of the big toms will take to the fields and thickets, leading a sporting life and living off the countryside. More than once when mowing, I have started up out of the thick hay a big tom engaged in stalking field mice. I don't like it when they take young birds and chipmunks, but there doesn't seem to be any way of controlling them, and in the barns they are not only valuable but indispensable, prowling the rooms, the feed mows, and the cattle stalls to keep down vermin. The number which goes wild in summer is small, for they are well fed in the barns and find an easy living there and at the kitchen doors of the various houses. As a rule, the barn cats are just cats, and it is sometimes difficult to distinguish one from another, but occasionally there develops what might be described in Rotarian language as an outstanding cat. You begin to notice something different about such a cat, and discern certain quirks of personality or behavior which attract your notice, and you begin to have a special feeling for him, and watch him and give a closer observation to his behavior. Louis Bromfield, Animals and Other People. The most perfect of carnivores. The degree of perfection reached by any living organism is simply the amount of specialization or adaptation which it has undergone in its relations to the special natural conditions under which its life is passed, and measured by this standard, the cat is the most perfect of carnivores. Feeding upon other animals, which it must pursue with noiseless stealth and capture by an exertion of supreme activity, the cat has padded feet which make no sound in movement, muscles of enormous power and bulk in proportion to its size, and attached to bones addressed to each other at such angles as to form the most complete system of springs and levers for propelling the body known in the whole group. The claws are sharper and curved into strong hooks more than in any other mammal, and by the action of special muscles are withdrawn under the protection of sheath-like pads, that they may escape wear and injury when not in use. No teeth are better fitted for their work, the great canines for tearing, and the scissor-like premolars for shearing off lumps of flesh small enough to swallow, while the short and simple alimentary tract takes up little internal space, and permits of a lithe and slender form suited to the highest activity, at the same time performing its digestive work rapidly and soon ridding the animal of the burden of the enormous meals which those which feed only when they can are certain to indulge in when the opportunity arises. Rush, Shippen, Huidekoper, M.D., the cat. A leavetaking. Today I said goodbye to Cinnamon, my ginger tabby cat, who had shared his life with me for almost 13 years. The pain is everywhere. It was an unexpected farewell. A sudden lameness had slowed his gait, always dignified and measured, but no one anticipated the diagnosis. Osteosarcoma metastasized to the lungs. Prognosis negative. I knew the decision I had to make, as many had made before me, but the kind veterinarian didn't hurry me. I'll be glad to send the x-rays to the University of California at Davis for corroboration, but I'm pretty positive that's what it is. There is already a traumatic fracture in that left leg. He left me alone in the examining room, and I wept as though I were losing my best friend. And I was. I had had Cinnamon's mother and uncle first, for a time all three, then Cinnamon and a matching red Persian, Jason, and for the last year and a half, Cinnamon and I had shared our home with Beckett, the Himalayan. We had shared so much else, too. Friends who came and sometimes went, but who stopped to pat with real affection the huge, shy orange cat, whose only expression, according to one friend, was adoring. And all during the last years of my mother's life he had climbed into her lap, hanging over the edges but perfectly content, or had stood by her chair in the dining room, waiting for a tidbit that was always offered at the end of the meal. Cinnamon never begged. He was a most polite cat. Every morning he sat on the kitchen floor beside my chair as I finished breakfast, waiting for the cereal dish to be lowered to the floor for him to lap up the last few drops of cream. I never took a nap that he didn't jump up to the bed to lie down beside me, his weight hard against my leg or back, purring his quiet, restrained purr, befitting an elderly gentleman whose manners were impeccable. He was a timid cat with strangers. A party sent him scooting under the bed, where he sometimes stayed until the last unfamiliar voice was gone. He was particularly wary of deep male voices. Women made friends with him more easily. He climbed into their laps, kneading the place to make it more his, then settling his 15 pounds on their well-pressed skirts and closing his eyes to slits. To remove him seemed profoundly ungracious, though he never made a fuss. In the last few years of his life he slept a great deal, either in his basket, or on my bed, or in the newly upholstered chair he had claimed for his own. Only when Beckett, in his kittenish enthusiasm, hopped on him from chair or couch, urging him to play tag, did he loosen up his old joints for a romp. Then the two of them tore through the house, threatening the lamps, the oriental art objects, the candlesticks. Once, only a few months ago, I saw him race up the avocado tree, Beckett in the lead. Often such exertions brought on a fit of coughing, but nothing marred his appetite. He was on hand night and morning for his bowl of food. He ate with his left paw, daintily lifting the food out and putting it in his mouth. If he didn't like the selection that day, he often dropped a piece into his water as a silent protest. For milk he had a special meow, and a warm bowlful was his favorite chaser to breakfast. With children he was especially gentle, allowing the small ones to lug him around like a sack. He was so big they could hardly lift him, but if they sat on the floor, he could crawl into their laps. He never scratched a person, only the dining room oriental rug, which was his in a definitive way no one could argue with. For the scratching post he had a fine disdain. At night he slept in the study in his wicker basket, only climbing down when I opened the door to say good morning. His small voice, totally out of character with his bulk, replied politely, and we were ready to begin the day. Tomorrow he won't be here to help me. When I said goodbye to him today in the doctor's office, I tried to tell him what he had meant to me for all those years, but of course I couldn't. One can never express the full measure of love. I could only scratch him between the ears where he loved it best, and kiss him there, and tell him what a very special cat he had always been. The most loving, the most loyal, the most patient with my impatience, the most trusting and devoted. You were not just a good cat, I told him. You were a great cat, Cinnamon. And we had happy years together. Now you have fulfilled your catness, and this is the last thing I can do for you, to spare you suffering and a miserable death. That much I can do, though it breaks my heart. He looked up at my face and meowed questioningly. I caressed his head and ears again and turned away. I couldn't see him for the tears. In every loss are all past losses. I weep for Cinnamon, my cat, and the deaths that have gone before. Jean Burden. The Thinking Cat. A cat appears to do nothing, and is yet an able servant. Though he speak but little, yet he thinks the more. Baron Ludwig Holberg. The cat. I like the simple dignity that hedges round the cat. You never see her showing off. She lets the dog do that. You never catch her leaping hoops nor prancing on the floor. Upon two legs, when generous, Dame Nature gave her four. We train the dog to hunt the birds, and beat him when he fails. He works all day and never gets a single taste of quails. The cat is wiser far than he. She hunts for birds to eat. She does not run her legs off just to give some man a treat. All cats, no matter what their breed, are born aristocrats. They never, like the terriers, make a trade of killing rats. The cat will rid the house of rats because she likes the fun. No man can say she's moved to it because he wants it done. Man harnesses the lightning and makes steam perform his will. The horse and dog his bondslaves are, the cat eludes him still. The dog's man's servant, plaything, drudge, a foolish altruist. The cat, in spite of man, remains serene, an egotist. Talk not to me about your dog, it is but idle chat. Give me that calm philosopher of hearth and home, the cat. Ruth Kimball, Gardiner. Discipline. A female cat is kept young in spirit and supple in body by the restless vivacity of her kittens. She plays with her little ones, fondles them, pursues them if they roam too far, and corrects them sharply for all the faults to which feline infancy is heir. A kitten dislikes being washed quite as much as a child does, especially in the neighborhood of its ears. It tries to escape the infliction, rolls away, paddles with its little paws, and behaves as naughtily as it knows how, until a smart slap brings it suddenly back to subjection. Pussy has no confidence in moral suasion, but implicitly follows Solomon's somewhat neglected advice. I was once told a pleasant story of an English cat who had reared several large families, and who, dozing one day before the nursery fire, was disturbed and annoyed by the whining of a fretful child. She bore it as long as she could, waiting for the nurse to interpose her authority. Then, finding passive endurance had outstripped the limits of her patience, she arose, crossed the room, jumped on the sofa, and twice with her strong soft paw, which had chastised many an erring kitten, deliberately boxed the little girl's ears, after which she returned to her slumbers. Agnes Repplier, The Fireside, Sphinx. The mouse's hole. The cat with eyne of burning coal now couches for the mouse's hole. William Shakespeare, Pericles. The contemplative life. From the dawn of creation, the cat has known his place, and he has kept it, practically untamed and unspoiled by man. He has retinue. Of all animals, he alone attains to the contemplative life. He regards the wheel of existence from without, like the Buddha. There is no pretense of sympathy about the cat. He lives alone, aloft, sublime in a wise passiveness. He is excessively proud, and when he is made the subject of conversation, will cast one glance of scorn and leave the room in which personalities are bandied. All expression of emotion he scouts as frivolous and insincere, except, indeed, in the ambrosial night, when, free from the society of mankind, he pours forth his soul in strains of unpremeditated art. The paltry pay and paltry praise of humanity he despises, like Edgar Poe. He does not exhibit the pageant of his bleeding heart. He does not howl when people die, nor explode in cries of delight when his master returns from a journey. With quiet courtesy, he remains in his proper and comfortable place, only venturing into view when something he approves of, such as fish or game, makes its appearance. On the rights of property he is firm. If a strange cat enters his domain, he is up in claws to resist invasion. It was for these qualities, probably, that the cat was worshipped by the ancient Egyptians. Andrew Lang. Play in animals. Play in animals is the preparation for the business of their life. Albert Hubbard, Pigpen Pete. Cat language. The cat has the advantage of a language which has the same vowels as pronounced by the dog, and with 6 consonants in addition: M, N, G, H, V, and F. Consequently, the cat has a greater number of words. Dupont de Nemours. The cat's claws. Most interesting to the naturalist are the cat's claws. They are used to seize and hold the prey till the animal can get the better of it, by biting it in the neck. They facilitate motion on steep inclines or slippery surfaces. They must therefore be flexible and capable of powerful grip. At the same time, it must be possible to keep them out of the way when the foot is used for walking, and to prevent them from being blunted by continued contact with the ground. The muscular arrangement for protruding and retracting the claws provides for all these circumstances. The forelimbs have a freedom of motion about equal to that of the apes and monkeys. They can be stretched out, turned, can strike a blow as easily as can a man's fist. The tiger can smash the shoulder blade of an ox or buffalo at a single stroke, and the domestic cat is, in her own realm, similarly efficient. Georgina Stickland Gates, The Modern Cat, Her Mind and Manners.